recording button. First of all, this is our first of the summer school webinars. We have a number planned, so again, thanks so much for everybody taking some time out of your day to attend. I hope this is going to be a really useful 45 minutes to an hour, and you'll be able to see some items in here that may explain some of maybe some what you might see as current shortcomings in the way that your system is set up, and potentially show you some new features that you can see. I'm going to be showing Accpac 6.0. I'll point out any of the obvious spots where 6.0 has added new features compared to 5.6. But again, in a lot of cases, there may be new features in 5.6 that you're not using that I might not cover. So we'll cover a lot of territory here. As far as the back and forth, again, anybody who's worked with me knows it's hard enough to get a word in with me anyway. But what I'll be doing is I'll do some batches, go through some of the presentation, and then kind of throw the floor open if there's any questions. And in the meantime, what I'll do is I'll just, as I carry on, I'll just mute everybody so you can click away in your keyboard and talk to people, and we won't be listening in. And then I'll just turn them all on if there's any questions. Anybody who's used GoToMeeting before knows that in the bottom right, just like Cynthia showed me, there's a little chat button. And if there's any particular question that you'd like to get covered, if you just type it in the chat, I'll see it. And if it's easy, I'll answer it. If it's really hard, I'll ignore it. Just like the teachers in your when you're going to school. So without further ado, we'll get started. And I am going to mute all right now, and we'll get started right in with the GL. Okay. So I'm going to open up our Accpac here. So the first thing I wanted to cover in the GL is the basic setup of the fiscal calendars. Now, in 6.0, there's been a significant improvement in the functionality of the fiscal calendars, which, again, is particularly exciting to most of us accountants. Under the common services in the fiscal calendar, you can see now that you have the ability to not only lock a period, but you can lock or unlock modules within that. So for most of our customers, accounts receivable, for example, as soon as you finish that month, you can lock it right away, but accounts payable may stay open. So potentially I could double-click here, lock the entire column, and then say, well, no, I want to keep the general ledger open, and I want to keep bank open for January. The intent for most customers, I think most customers would benefit using the fiscal calendar by locking every month they're not using. Again, in Accpac, you can post to any month in the current year or prior years at any time unless the month is locked. So it's a good habit, unless you're doing a lot of forward posting, to lock the months you're not working in, lock the periods you're not working in, and just leave the months open that you need. And as soon as we've issued our statements for bank statements in January, you can go in and lock those, and no transactions can be posted. So that certainly is something that's been a nice improvement, and all the modules that you work with will honor that. You can't post in a subledger if it's into a locked month. So it really can prevent errors from happening before they actually happen. Now what I'll do is I'll just go through a bit of the options in the setup. I'll just touch on quickly here the adjustment period. In Accpac, there are actually 13 periods. And if you actually have a 13-period year, then it actually has 14 periods. There's an adjustment period, which when your accountants come in at the end of the year and want to provide adjustment entries, they can be posted into an adjustment period, and that will prevent them from throwing off your monthly financials. It'll be included in your annual report, but not in the financials. Not in the financials for example, for December. So your monthly comparisons will always work. And the same, the closing period is again the 15th period, where when you close your income statement accounts, they're posted into the 15th period. So again, they're not included in the current financial statements. So again, a lot of flexibility here, and once you get in the habit of making this part of the month-end process, then it can really prevent any random things getting posted into the wrong month. When I go into the GL, and go into the setup, again, this is one of those things that's very often done once and never looked at again. There's some settings in here. Clearly, there's a functional currency. If you were a multi-currency company, there'd be a checkbox here. There's a function within Accpac. We'll touch on that today to use account groups. There's a function to maintain quantities, which we'll look at. And also there's some GL security functions, which was added as free features in the as from free features in most recent years, and may not be used in the current setup. So let me just click onto here under posting. Under the posting tab, we're able to select the number of budget sets. Now, all of these budget sets aren't available to all the versions of Accpac. There's some versions of Accpac that do not include 5 budget sets. Some include 2, 3, or 4. And in this case here, this is the 500 series, so it has 5 budget sets. And once a budget has been used and set, I can lock it, because again, in most cases, once your budget is set, it should be kept. And if we're going to do a revision, those revisions can be stored in the alternate budget sets. Here's a checkbox: allow posting to previous years. If this is turned off, nobody can post to prior years. So you can see from this setting here, the current year is 2020. If this is unchecked, nobody can post to any year other than 2020. As controller, if you needed to, you could log in, turn that back on, do a posting, and then turn it off again. Provisional posting, I'll show you a little bit about provisional posting. And this is an old checkbox, forced listing of batches. If you have this turned on, your computer is telling you to print a batch anytime before you post it, which in our era of electronic storage is not necessary anymore. That's primary setup. Again, these options here for the 100 and 200 series, the number of years of fiscal sets and transactions are limited to 7. And in the 500 series are limited to 99. So this is the number of years of history you can maintain. So that is the setup of the options. So I'll just unmute this to see if there's any questions. Anything out there that I should be revisiting? Any other questions about the setup? Okay, that's fine. I'll continue on then. All right, so once we've got the options set up, now one of the features that again would be one of those things that not many people would be working with would be the source codes. Now, in most cases, source codes are assigned by the subledger. So in this list here, you can see accounts payables ledger has a credit note, and that's accounts payable has a debit note. And these are all created by the activation of that module. If you scroll a bit further down, you can see here's the GL entry, and here's all the different GL ones. Now, some of these are, all of these are set up by the user. So it's very possible that everyone who's listening, when they do journal entries, are making journal entries using GLJE. and that's the standard journal entry. It's just a journal entry. But it's possible that you could have different types of journal entries which would help you identify different types of GL entries. So in this case here, GLAR, these are AR adjustment entries. Data conversion entries, there's a journal entry, reallocation transactions, revaluation. So you can create as many of these fixing entries. So if you create a unique source code, then you can run reports on transactions that just fit that source code. So if you're looking for types of transactions, this is an easy way to find it. You could, in theory, have a different source code for everybody who can do a journal entry, right? So GL01 could be Alicia. Let me say Alicia's journal entries. So at the end of the year, you could run a report which would show you all the journal entries Alicia did, and would not reduce the value of anything. Now those source codes that have been set up, as I mentioned, we can run reports on them. The reports are run by creating what's called a source journal profile. And again, this is probably an icon most of you have never gone to. The source journal profile allows you to create a custom report out of the GL which only includes certain types of transactions, and it's all selected by different source codes. So you can create a list of different types of transactions. Again, if you're looking for all the GL journal entries, you run this report and it gives you every transaction in the general ledger that has a source code of GLJE. So if I wanted to include the ones that Alicia did, then I can create this report. So once I've defined this profile, I can then go under my reports and print what's called a source journal. So by printing off the source journal, I can select GL journal entries, and I could say, give me all the journal entries, and you can see these selection options is very similar to all your other reports. I can say, give me all the journal entries for all my accounts for fiscal year 2020, and hit print. And that's how easy it is to get a list of all of the entries. So at this point, clearly this report could be modified, but if all you're looking for is a list of these entries, you'd actually be able to just use your export function and export to Excel. And those transactions are going to show up in Excel like this. So here's all of those entries, and it's that easy to get them into Excel. And again, there's hundreds of ways to get data to Excel, but that's a nice, easy way if you want to be able to identify different entry types. So if you've got certain entries that are coming through recurring entries, you could create different source codes for them and make it really easy to report on them. Okay, just a second here. Okay. So covering the source journals, is there anybody out there who can speak up who actually uses source journals? Nothing. Is there anybody now that might use them that they've seen this? Yeah, I would.
Yep.
Okay, good answer. So certainly that's the intent, is to make the data a bit more accessible. Okay, so my next option, what I wanted to go through, so that's really those are really the setup options that we've got in the setup of the general ledger. Source codes, source journal profiles, segment codes are for departments, and the other thing I'll touch on here are account groups. Now, account groups, when Accpac first was called Accpac for Windows, many years ago, they had 16 account groups. And when you created a GL account, you had to select one of those 16 accounts. That was the only option you had. Clearly, companies have more robust requirements than that. So several versions ago, they added the functionality of report groups, account groups. And with account groups, the key is that you're going to be identifying every account group that are, every GL account should be tied to one of these account groups. And again, there's an unlimited number of account groups. And the biggest advantage of doing these groups is that you're able to run reports by group and not necessarily by GL account. So if you have some GL accounts that are not contiguous, that are not just a natural sequence of accounts, that maybe you've got some wages accounts that are in different parts of the GL, well, you can assign them all to one account group, and when printing off reports, you're able to go through any report, if I look at a trial balance, and you can run them by account group. So I don't have to know what my accounts receivable GL account is. All I have to do is say, give me everything in account group 2. And print. There it is. Okay. Hold on a second here. So we've got one of the reasons we've got a few different updated meetings, and there's some people sitting on the other meetings, so my partner Anna is going to go look after them. Luckily, they'll have the recording to catch up. Okay, so we've got, so that's the nature of account groups, and the other key thing to account groups is that anybody in the group that has actually designed financial statements knows that if you add a new GL account, they don't automatically appear in financial statements. If all of your financial statements are done using account groups, then as long as every account you add is assigned to an account group, your financial statements are always in balance. So that's one of the big advantages. The next session, the next class we have in 2 weeks is going to be on Sage Intelligence, and that's the new module that's included with Accpac 6.0. The Sage Intelligence product does financial statements, and it really relies upon account groups to make reporting easy. So what we're going to do now is we've looked at the setup of the account groups. I'm just going to go quickly in, and we'll touch on the setup of the chart of accounts. So in the setup of a GL account, we've got clearly you've got an account number, you've got a description, and the normal balance debit credit just shows which side of the trial balance it naturally shows up on, and here's your option where we select an account group. So it's possible that your current GL accounts may not have account groups assigned, and that just has to be activated. Lastly, you select whether it's a balance sheet or income statement, and this just means should it be closed at the end of the year. As a tip, if you've done a year-end where an account which should have been a balance sheet was accidentally set up as an income statement, you can't change it. You'll have to set up a new account. In the setup of the account, you get to choose, as I mentioned, we've got account groups, and below that, you've got a checkbox here called control account. If you identify a GL account as a control account, you can identify which modules can post to it. So what this means is that if you identify this account, petty cash, as only allowing transactions from AP and AR, it means you can't make a journal entry to it. So this is clearly important when you're dealing with accounts, a bank account, for example. In Accpac, your bank account should never have a journal entry made to it. You should only be allowed in the bank account to post from the bank module, accounts receivable, and accounts payable. So that's where we stand there. So over the next few minutes, I think some of our lost souls will be arriving to class, and we'll get caught up with them. I'm just going to unmute this for now so they can let us know they're here.
I just joined.
Okay, sorry about, must have had a couple of different meetings up that got sent out, and I apologize for that. This is being recorded, so I'll be sending out a link to this, and you can fast forward through the first 20 minutes of the presentation. But all the good stuff is coming.
Okay. I'm on GoToMeetings, and it just says download complete. Your meeting should start in a few seconds.
Okay. Okay. So we've got some other ones that are joining in.
Hey, pals, I got the same issue.
Oh, sorry about that, Dave. We'll get better at this. Don't worry, this won't go on your permanent record.
Excellent fellow. Excellent.
So yeah. Pardon me?
Is there going to be a quiz later?
No, there's not. I already told everybody there's no quiz. So if you accidentally have to reply to an email during class, nobody will know.
Okay.
And I generally have, while some of you folks are loading in, I'll keep the mute off, but generally I just keep it muted so you're able to go about your business and sneeze if you need to. So in the setup, so the subledger setup is important for accounts like inventory control, accounts receivable, accounts payable in the banks, so that your subledgers are always in balance. And nobody accidentally posts to them. Going back also for this, there's a function called auto allocation, and I don't really have anybody who's currently using auto allocation. I'll just go grab another account. Auto allocation would give you the ability that at the end of each month, you could take the balance of an account and allocate out 50% of that to one GL account, 27% to another GL account, and 23% to another GL account. Now, in most cases, our clients are actually just doing that allocation in accounts payable. But again, if you wanted to, you could do an allocation by account balance each month. And if you did, you could say, I want to take 50% to that account and 50% to that account. So that might fit in an organization where you have kind of a central office supplies and you have different departments that should have these allocated. And all right, and if you've just joined us, welcome. Sorry for the sending on a wild goose chase there. And so we don't have anybody using this now. I don't know if many would, but that's an option you have if you have a GL account that has a lot of transactions that you're allocating out of. There are add-on modules for Accpac that can dynamically set this percent so that at the end of each month, this could be set to a percent based upon total revenue by department, and then this could be allocated. But again, that would be an extra. And lastly, one of the other features here, maintain quantities. For every GL account in Accpac, you have the ability to track quantities as well. So again, the most likely potential would be for something like if you had, I don't know if they have heating. We'll just say service overhead. If you had a heating account, you could say maintain quantities, and this could be liters of fuel. And based on having the liters of fuel assigned to that heating account, you can generate reports at the end of the month that will give you total cost per liter of fuel. One of our clients who manages hotels will use things like quantities to track room nights. Some of our nursing home clients will use it to track bed days. So it's a great function where you're looking for some standardized reporting and you want to be able to get it out of the system and not keep it in yet another spreadsheet. Because spreadsheets are, well, they're great tools, but eventually they start to run your daily work. So again, this is a function, and I'll show you. We'll go do a journal entry later, and once you turn on maintain quantities, there's a new column in journal entries that will allow you to enter a quantity. So if you just joined us, we're just going to start talking about the GL security function. So again, this is one of those things that I think many of you would not be using, but can be very handy. I turned it on earlier, and under the GL accounts, you've got a new function here called account permissions. So under account permissions, you can identify different individuals, and you can actually disable their ability to see certain departments. So for example, this user, Susan May, we've set her up not to be able to see Division 100. So it's possible if you're running a departmental organization where you've got some people working in one department, some in another one, you can prevent them from accidentally posting to the wrong account. You can accidentally prevent them from posting to the wrong account by setting the system up to not allow posting into this segment. And again, I can add different segments, and I can say she also can't post in a region 10. And I think we got some more arrivals. Is that you there, Ben?
I'm here now, yep.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think you might have set you on a wild goose chase. As I mentioned earlier, this is all being taped, and we'll make it available later, and the first 25 minutes you'll be able to catch up on.
Great.
All right.
Do you know why we can't see what you're doing? I can't see what you're doing, even though I use the link that Anna sent.
Okay. I guess my first question is, are most people able to see the screen?
Yes, I
Yep.
can.
Yeah, but I had to switch to Internet Explorer to do it.
Okay. It may be that there's either a security thing that's preventing this from running, or is it possible it's running in a different window?
No, I can see all my windows.
Okay. Well, Ben, that makes this taping even more important.
Okay.
So we'll work on this again. As far as troubleshooting, that is certainly what we do, but we're much better at it in Accpac than we would be in GoToMeeting. So we'll try to get better at it. But for now, I'll just try to paint a picture with my words.
Okay.
Okay. So again, the great feature here is that if you are running a multi-departmental organization and you've got people responsible for certain areas, then they can post there. Another option here, for example, is if you're running an organization where maybe the person in payroll is able to do payroll for the basic hourly users, but doesn't do payroll for the management users, you could actually disable their ability to see those particular GL accounts. So there's a lot of functionality there by user and here. Clearly, once you've done that, it does require that you have to maintain it, but it certainly gives you a lot of flexibility. Once you set up some functionality, and I click on this test button, okay, it's not going to let me do that because I got something else open. I'll just close this. back into here. So I'm just going to grab Susan. I'm just going to grab this user and click on the test button, and it's going to show me here's all the accounts that Susan can see, and you can't quite see that it's not there, but here's a GL account 4180 and 4180-200. There is no 4180-100. So again, the functionality will let you have real control over who sees what in the GL. And again, this rolls through to every report. So they run a trial balance. If they run a financial statement, those accounts don't exist to that user. So that's one of the strengths, and again, it was added as a feature. Initially it was a pricey option, but they've included it, I believe, since version 5.6 going forward. So I'll just say if there's, so based on account permissions, based on what we've covered till date, and based on the fact that this is being recorded, so we'll be able to share it again later. Are there any other particular questions, especially from the people that have been here the whole time? Again, I apologize for the folks that spent their time looking into the ether. All right, we'll continue on because we're just about halfway through. What I wanted to do a quick touch on here is, again, I work with a lot of folks that are doing a lot of different things in their GL. I just wanted to sort of show you that most of my work when I'm working in the GL, I do it all through this option here, which is chart of accounts. From the chart of accounts, you can double-click and maintain the account by selecting here and clicking on transactions. You can open up the transactions of the account. If I go down to 4,000, I can click here and I can do a comparison here. So in this case, I'm doing a comparison of actuals to budget, the differences. And I can also look at the budget information for this account, budget actual, and lastly, I can look at the history for this account. So I can look at the current year, last year. So there's really no reason you would ever need to work in any other module to see anything that's for an inquiry in the GL. So that's kind of where I work. We'll just quickly go through the reporting. Oh, actually, I'm going to go, before I go here, I'm just going to go back. I missed one item in the accounts. I go back into my chart of accounts. We'll go look at this account. So account 4000 is my sales account, and I've done all this work to be able to get departmental reporting, but it's possible that every day one of the managers comes up and says, well, I want to get total sales for everything. So that's where this rolling up function works. So I'm going to go into my sales account, and I'm going to say, do a roll up, and I'm going to say that I want, when I do a roll up, okay, just a second here. So there's, I'm going to take 4,100 and I'm going to insert 4,200, just as an example. And I'm going to save that. So now that I've got these items selected as roll-ups, when I go into here, and when I go into this screen now, if I say use rolled up balances, what you're going to see is those 4,100 and 4,200 now are blanked out, and they're now included in this grand total sales. So this hasn't made any entry. It hasn't made any adjustment to the GL. It's strictly a presentation. So by having rolled up balances, I can easily summarize. So if you've got 6 different banks and you want to be able to get just a quick total cash position, you can say roll those up. And again, you can use these different rolled up balances as well. So once this is available, then when I go to run GL reports, I can also use the rolled up amounts. Okay, so that's one of the last functions. Again, that rolling up the balances, I believe, was added in 5.6. So that's the features that was added there. The rest of this, all pretty straightforward. These are all the standard reports. All these options are the same. Again, in version 6, and I don't have 5.6 in front of me. One of the features, I think, in the trial balance, and I don't know if it's in 5.6, is I can now do net changes for the period. And you can actually get a trial balance on just net changes for fiscal period 4. So if you're not using it, that's available. And Cynthia tells me she has not seen that before, and she's really excited about it, or something like that. Thanks, Cynthia. And so those are the primary reporting, and I know from my end, I'm not sure if you're all hearing the dings as people arrive. Again, I apologize for the folks that have been patiently waiting and thinking, gee, it's not like Gary to be late. And I've got you all muted, so you can't say anything. Okay, now I'll unmute. So again, this is being taped, and as soon as we're done, in the next 24 hours, we'll get it posted in some magical internet way, and you'll be able to fast forward through all the boring parts. Okay, so that's the primary stuff I wanted to cover as far as the setup. We're going to touch quickly on the doing reversing entries. When I'm creating a journal entry, I've got my option as I'm doing an entry to just click on the auto reverse button. By default, it defaults to next period, but you can actually have it reverse in a particular period in a particular year. So again, it makes it really easy just to do this once. When you post this, both sides, the entry and the reversal is made. So you don't need to wait until the next month to do reversing entry. So this is key. Anybody who's ever wondered, normal versus quick, if you're using quick entry and you hit the insert key, it will automatically copy the contents of the last line to the next line. If you don't have that turned on, then the next line starts out as blank. So that's the primary setup of the journal entry. Recurring entries are set up under the setup of journal entries. Here's your recurring entries. So for example, I set up a depreciation entry. Say that it's happening monthly. Okay, this is a schedule that's been set up in the system, and it's never going to expire. It's going to come monthly, and it's $500. So I create this entry. Because I've assigned it to this schedule, if I go take a look at this schedule, the monthly schedule is assigned to a specific user. So when you have a schedule, you can say this is a schedule for this user. So if this is designed for the finance department, then you would identify which user gets it, and the reminder isn't going to be shown to everybody else. So when I say this is for a specific user, what that means is when I log in, because I've got that schedule set, when I log into this company, the first thing it's going to do is pop up my reminder list and say these are the recurring entries that need to be done. Now these recurring schedules also apply to recurring AP invoices and customer invoices. But if this is next supposed to be run on August 1st, 2020, all I have to do from here is hit process or process. Okay. No, it says it doesn't like it because they're locked. So the process of running a recurring entry is just like that. If it's an entry that's going to be changed each month, so it's the same GL account but a different amount, you can set up a recurring entry with no dollars and then just go into the transaction after it's been created and modify it. So it could create a recurring entry which has all the GL accounts but it's $0, and then you can fill out the GL account, the GL amounts, and then post it from there. So a little bit quicker. And that's reversing. So we showed you the auto reverse. Any batch that's been posted ever, I'm able to open up that batch. We'll open up this batch, and I can just click on the reverse button. So if this entry is incorrect, I can click reverse. Now, clearly, if I reverse an accounts payable invoice entry, this could throw off my subledger, but this is primarily used in a situation where I've made a journal entry and it's been done incorrectly. I can just go select that entry, click reverse, and say process. It's now created the reversing entry, exact same date, exact same transactions, and I can post that to reverse it. So that's all it takes. And lastly, what I wanted to show in the posting was the functionality of the provisional posting. Provisional posting is great around year ends as controllers and financial people are trying to close the books. What they're able to do is make a journal entry, especially one of those journal entries that's done at 6:30 on a Friday night. You're trying to get out of there, and you want to see make sure that it was done correctly. You can do a provisional posting of an entry, and once that's been provisionally posted, you can actually run your financials, or sorry, you can go run a trial balance, and you can say provisionally included. So again, by saying provisionally included, it'll show you what the results are of that provisional posting. If everything looks good, you just post it regularly and you're good to go. If everything was accidentally entered reverse of what it should have been, you fix it and then post it again. So certainly the concept is the ability to be able to check your work. Accpac has never provided an unpost function. That goes back to the fact that everybody would have initially thought that would be a horrible function to give to somebody because so much of the work that was being done at the time was saved on paper, and if you saved an entry, then how could you make that entry go away? And again, now because so much it's all electronic, a lot more flexibility. And lastly, what I wanted to show here in the GL, and I'm not sure if everybody's dealt with it, is in the GL, and I don't have it set up here, we have, I'm not logged in this here. Yeah, in the GL, and I'm not sure if anybody's done this, you can change GL accounts. In the process of changing a GL account will allow you to, when you make the change, it will change it so that it appears it was that way forever. The subledger changes, everything changes. You would never know it was any other way. And for that reason, it's important that we don't print and purge transactions out of Accpac, because once you print it, changing the GL account is not going to affect those printed copies, clearly. So that's why it's important that all of our history is maintained in the system, and if a GL account is set up incorrectly and you want to change this CCB Visa, should be 1026, the account change program will change that, and again, it'll be like it was always that way. And it rolls through all your subledgers, so everything always balances. So that's kind of the core GL functionality. I'll just unmute that in the GL. So I guess what I was going to do next is take a look at some of the budgeting tools that we've kind of built, some of the spreadsheet tools we've built to integrate to this. And again, I know I keep on seeing names pop up. I apologize for giving you nothing to do for a half an hour, but this will be recorded and available. And I'm just going to tell you, we'll try to make it available through the HBM Sage 300 user group page. Now you can see many of the folks here have signed up. Look at that, Cynthia, a nice little note here. So anybody who's on LinkedIn will be able to join the group. Anybody who's not probably should. There's a lot of great tools out on the internet that can replace us doing a lot of work on our own. And again, LinkedIn's a great tool. And our objective is to start to have all of our clients be able to participate in the user group and share information and see if we can get some extra value out of the association that you all have through us. So we'll probably be posting it there, but we'll certainly make sure it's available to everybody. Now for some of the more interesting things we've done, anybody who's doing budgets in Accpac, and if they're doing budgets the way that Accpac does budgets, knows that it's a rather onerous task of going in and saying, oh, 82,000, well, no, that should be 89,000. Oh, second here. Negative 89,000 and a fixed amount and replace. There it is. Now it's 89,000. Clearly, when you have thousands of accounts, this is not a good way to work. So we've got clients we've built a couple of different spreadsheets for. We've got one spreadsheet that we've created. So with this spreadsheet here, you're able to build a sheet that you can in fact give to a department manager. It would have all their sales accounts, all their cost of sales. There's only a few rules you have to follow here. You know, the GL account has to be in this column. And over here, the system actually looks, it says fiscal period 1, fiscal year 2020. Once I've built this spreadsheet, I can have one tab for each department. Once I've got a tab for each department, and it's all in here, and I can do all my Excel formulas and functions I want, it's only going to look at columns that have this and accounts that have this. Once that's in place, then I'm able to go into here, import budgets, point to it, say open, and import. And you can see that'll import all that from the spreadsheet first. Certainly a lot easier to deal with that sheet than the kind of spreadsheet that you would deal with if you actually tried to import that using the core Accpac functionality. Again, Accpac can import any of this stuff, but the format is almost not usable in the fact that it's just so technical. So out there, as far as entering spreadsheets, so I've got it unmuted. Is there any? Is anybody using any other importing process to get budgets into your GL? Nothing better than this. Again, a lot of cases we've got clients that are actually still keeping their budgets in a spreadsheet and not putting them into Accpac because they're changing often, and the functionality of trying to get it into the system, it just takes so long. So the idea is that with this utility that we've built in that spreadsheet, it should be easy to maintain. We worked at this a lot 2 years ago. The Canada Games in Halifax used Accpac, and they were using that budget importing tool because they had a lot of different budgets and they were changing on the fly. So there's a lot of changes there. So it's a great tool. Some of our largest clients use it just to make sure that their budgets are in Accpac. And as you can see during the import, I can import into different budget sets that are available. One of the other tools that we've built over the years is a product. Not that one. We, along with one of our developer friends, we built a utility called GLIO, which is GL Input Output. And what this is able to do is build a spreadsheet that, and again, it's a little bit technical, but listing the GL accounts here, the fiscal periods here, and by having the word get here, by clicking on process, this will log in, sign on. If I process, that's all it takes, and there's my GL, or there's my budget. So that will pull the budget out, and then I could change it and put it back in this way. So it came out at 512. If I process this now, it will put it back in as 55. So again, in this case, we've had clients use this to really dynamically maintain the budgeting for the current month and for the future. So this has a lot of flexibility if you're building budgets based on things like room nights, based on any other activity. All of these fields can be linked to very dynamic spreadsheets. So for maintaining budgets, there are tools that can help you get most out of Accpac, because there is no better place to keep your budgeting information than in Accpac. One of the other tools for any of our clients that have a number of different companies that they need to maintain, there's a third-party program called Copy Company. And when you log in, you're able to take one company and copy it to another company. And if you're creating a brand new database, what do I do here? Let's try this one. So when I copy this, I've created my brand new company, I've activated the modules, and then by coming in here, I can say copy the accounts, copy the options, and literally in 5 minutes, all the vendors, all the customers, all the GL accounts, all the setup is identical. So again, any company that's got several, this would, several different properties they manage or businesses they run, this will guarantee that you've got the same chart of accounts on all of them. And I know we're running short on time. I'll have to do a better job at scheduling everything we're going to cover. The last thing I want to cover, and I know I've got a few of our clients on the line that use this, is a journal entry spreadsheet. Again, this is a nice alternative to recurring entries in Accpac. What you're able to do is create your journal entry here and hit import batch, and it creates the batch. So you're able to, this is a great spot to keep recurring entries. One function, and again, this is one of the nice kind of, it's been an organic building over time, is this function actually has the ability to pull data out of Accpac. So by putting in a range of GL accounts and fiscal periods, I can say export data, and it's actually going to go into my GL and pull out all the entries that meet that criteria. So you could use this for doing reversing entries. You could use this for, well, basically you can do this for doing anything that's going to help you analyze the GL. And at this point in time, after I pulled this out, all I'd have to do to post that batch would be import batch. Yeah, it's not gonna, I've got everything locked. That's all it takes to import it. So certainly anybody who's got recurring entries that are dynamic and changing, this is a great tool to do entries. So on the GL side of things, I kind of went through it. Clearly, clearly quickly. If it was too fast, then that's exactly what the LinkedIn form will be for you to go in there and say, you know, that session was way too fast. For the people that were only here for the last 15 minutes, it wasn't fast enough. So what we'll be doing is posting the information up here, and we get a chance to go through it if it was too fast. So based on everything we covered, was there anything else that that was a glaring omission in the presentation, or is there anything else that we can that you'd like me to cover before I send you on your way? Okay, so because I've got your rapt attention, one of the things I wanted to use this session for the next 3 minutes was because we spend so much time working in technology, we're always seeing different things and things that I think are pretty useful for just nothing to do with Accpac, just useful in general. And one of the things that I think is the most useful thing we've ever had is a product called Zobni. And Zobni is inbox spelled backwards. So you're seeing my Outlook right now, and Letitia is one of our clients. And what's really neat about this is I do my best to keep my inbox empty, just because I try to get things done, and getting a full inbox can be a real pain. So I have all these folders, and I put stuff in folders. Well, you start putting stuff in folders, it's hard to find it. With Zobni, what it does is it indexes your inbox. So when I go search for Tish, if I click Tish here, this is actually showing me every conversation I've had with Tish, no matter where they're stored. And I've got 340 of them. Even more useful is the fact that I can click here, it'll show me every attachment we swapped. So anytime you're looking for that email that somebody sent with that spreadsheet and you're thinking, okay, who sent that to me, where was it? I don't have to go through her folder. I can see every one here, and you can see this goes back to 2010. I've got access to all of them. It's all instant. On top of that, so that's what I use the most. It actually shows everybody else she's linked to, so I can actually send emails to those people from here. What also shows you is it actually keeps statistics. It actually tells you that I have sent her 651 emails, and she sent me 601. And she's number 18 on my list of volume. This is a free product, like most things now, but if you pay the extra $10 a year, the thing I like the most about it is that when I go to send emails, you're familiar with all of the Outlook trying to finish things for you. Well, Zobni will actually remember everybody who's ever emailed you and give you that option too. So anybody who's ever sent an email, I can find them just by typing in their name. So I don't have to go searching around for an email. And lastly, of course, this entire list for another $10 a year gets synchronized to my BlackBerry. So when I'm out on the road, I have my fingertips on every email address that who's ever emailed me anything. So again, it's not an expensive thing, but anybody who is constantly searching for things in their Outlook, it's a very handy product, and again makes searching through emails a whole lot easier. Because if you take a look here, you can see in my sent folder, 27,000 items. So I try to keep it all. So, and now I'll take a breath. So again, what I'm going to do here, last chance, anybody have any questions? If there's no other questions, then certainly we're going to be, I'll be posting this recording. I'll either try to get, just send an email out with a link to it, or put it up on our LinkedIn website to share it. And from here, if there are any questions, if you're interested in taking a look more at those, the budgeting or the spreadsheet tools, just send me an email, give me a call. Either myself or Ann or Mock or Jim can answer any questions about them. And certainly feel free once you've had a chance to mull it over, to fire me off any feedback. Again, I know that there's probably we'll get better at these things. Certainly, we'll make sure everybody has the right address next time. And we'll try to continue to add some value on a biweekly basis for a while, and then on a regular basis going forward. So if there's nothing else, I'll send you back to your day. Anybody knows that I was just 5 minutes late will know that I was working my butt off on it. And so certainly I'll send a note to follow up, and don't hesitate to call us or send us an email if you have any questions. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.